Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we are going to create a UUID of a data set using 3 different languages. First, using SQL, then we proceed to using PySpark, then we proceed to using SparkSQL. To begin with, let's take a look at our data. Let's start. As you can see in this screen, we have the data set that we'll be using as store sales. This is a default table provided by Databricks free edition. So this table contains sales data by default, and this is already inbuilt with Databricks free edition. So let's begin using SQL. To begin with, we open our SQL terminal, right? Create a SQL workspace terminal, and we have this. To do this, you go to your Hoover and then you look at the SQL editor. You create it and then you add a new editor, which is this. Let's name this UUID because we'll be creating UUID. Enter. Now we've created this SQL editor. Now we are going to only create this UUID for only 10 data sets, just for this video, only 10 data sets. Now to begin with, you start with your select your data set from the table data that we have, and in Databricks it's a 3 namespace. So this data, first you know the catalog, and then the schema, and then a table, right? So we copy this way, it copies the table name and everything, we paste here, right? So this is the catalog, the schema, and then the table name. Now let's pick every data set from it with a star, comma, with a star. Let's take a look, and then we pick the first 10 values, right? The first 10 names in it. So use the limits to 10. Let's run this, and you can see the engine running the SQL reading it. And this is the 10 data sets, that 10 rows, the first 10 rows that we are able to call from there using SQL. You can see it's a long list of columns having various data sets. Now let's move on to adding the UUID to this data set, right? To add UUID in SQL, there's a function called UUID. Yes, a function called UUID. So to do that, let's just enter this way. UUID, right? Open, close bracket, and then comma to separate it. Then this function is an inbuilt function in SQL itself that you can call to apply a UUID. This gives a unique data set to each row in this data set, right? Let's run it and see how the UUID is generated. Yep. As you can see, we easily created this UUID, as simple as that in SQL. And this is your UUID data. You can see right over here being created using the UUID function, inbuilt function with SQL. Great, right? Very easy. Now let's proceed with using PySpark. In PySpark, to do this, you need to create a notebook. We are going to use a notebook. And to create a notebook, we first need to go to the drop down and then go to our workspace, right? When you go to your workspace, what you need to do is first you can create a notebook this way. You create a new notebook. This notebook, you name it UUID, right? UUID. It already exists, so let's change the name. Give it PyUUID, right? Maybe Py_UUID. Yeah, great. And we know PySpark is a Python, is the SQL version in Python. It's used a Python language, so we maintain the Python. And then to begin with, let's take a look at our data set again. And in Python, to do this, you need to use some live models some models in. You need to import the models in order for you to use, right? And to do that, what we will do is to write the model function that helps us to get this, to import these models, right? So we say from PySpark.SQL import functions.SQL functions, import every function in SQL, right? So this is the model we are importing. We are importing this model and using every function within the model, right, for this particular video. Now let's click enter, and now we need to create a variable and assign the table to a data set or to a data frame, right? So to do that, we need to create a variable called sales equal, we use the Spark engine, so spark.read.table brackets colon, and then you bring the table in. So this creates a variable, right, and assigns the table to this, right? And now let's view our data set. Let's run this. We are running it using serverless. Let's run this and wait while the PySpark creates the data frame. It will create a data frame of this, right? And we'll take a look at how it shows. While this is running, we could also continue by writing a display in order to view the data sets that we have, right? So display, now it has run. Now let's take a look at the data set. So display, and then sales, that is the variable we assign to this table, right? Now we can see the data frame has been created. You can see data frame, right? Now let's take a look at the data itself. Run. And then this will bring out the table that we have in the catalog, right? The table that we have in the catalog, in this samples catalog, right? To view the data itself. So now we can see this is the table. We can also view the table using PySpark this way. Great. Now let's go back and then we apply the UUID to the first 10 rows. To do that, let's create another space, and then what happens is we've already assigned this to sales, right? Now let's call that and then do a select on it and apply a UUID, right? So let's call the new data frame sales UUID equal sales dot select bracket enter. Then we have sales star. We're viewing everything, right? Star this way, sorry, star this way, and we have limits to 10, right? Limit to 10 this way, right? Now let's display this data set. Sales, let's go UUID. First, let's run this. It creates another data frame. Then we run this to see the thing. Perfect. So we can see we have just 10 data sets in here, right? Just 10 data sets. Now from here, let's apply the UUID. We go back to our data sets, right? We use expression UUID then comma then we run it, run the data frame again, So that is PySpark for you. Now let's do this same using Spark SQL. Spark SQL uses Spark engine, but you applies it on the same SQL function that we initially wrote. So let's go back and create a new notebook. So with this notebook, we're going to call it Spark SQL. Great. And Spark SQL is also PySpark. We just apply this Spark engine on it, and it remains the same Python, right? Remains the same Python as well. Now let's go on to this and import as well. We're going to import PySpark from PySpark.SQL functions import all. Great. Now what we're going to do is this way we're also going to create a data frame as well. Let's create a data frame. Sales equal, but in this case we'll use, what we're going to use is Spark SQL bracket open this way, 1, 2, 3 this way. Yes, we apply it on a SQL. We apply a SQL model, right? Because we imported a SQL model. Now in this case we're just going to write normal Spark SQL or SQL formula or SQL code. We're just going to write SQL code, and Spark will apply its engine on the SQL that we write, and then we can create a data frame with this, and then create a UUID as well. So select from this table, same table that we have, right? We select start, and same as we limit 10, right? Create a UUID as we did previously, and that's it. Now let's run this and create a data frame. While this is being created, it's done. Now let's take a look at the data and display sales. Wait for it to load, and then you can see the UUID should be applied as it is to the 10. Yes, great. So you can see this is applied to the data. Great. Thanks for joining me. We are able to create a UUID using 3 different code languages: Spark, PySpark, SQL, and SparkSQL. See you in my next video.